you're part of this unit of four for so long, and all of a sudden you're by yourself, like getting three appendages cut off, when you're...
Burcham isn't exaggerating. He's made a living photographing and participating in some incredible journeys in some of the world's most remote places, Western China's mountains, South American jungles, and the Alaskan interior. He has a perverse understanding of cold, thirst, and endurance, and he meets most of it head-on with laughter. When someone like Burcham tells you they have a story, and a serious story, you shut up and listen. Burcham watched his friends leave and disappear over a hill. He could feel his gut start to turn. He thought of his family thousands of miles away in Southern California. They were finishing up wedding plans, confirming with caterers and florists. Mentally, he was stuck between two different worlds. Physically, he was smack in the center of North America's most unforgiving wilderness.
Maybe I wasn't thinking altogether, where I would make mistakes I maybe wouldn't do.
The bear tracks appeared like a bad omen. As Burcham climbed up a steep slope, the valley was funneling towards a narrow pass.
And it's more confined. You're in very narrow valleys in this pass where it's not that open, and I just kept seeing these tracks going the way I was going, and I thought, I'm going to run right into this bear way up in this mountain pass.
But he kept going. He was already nervous, and all he could focus on was getting to that lodge. The next valley would lead to a river that would take him directly there. The other option would be to traverse the other side of the peak above him. He rolled up over the ridge and looked down into the small valley, and immediately he knew he was in trouble. A couple 100 feet below him, the mother grizzly, with 3 cubs in tow, sniffed the air.
When you're by yourself, all of a sudden, that's a big problem. When you're in a group of 4, you're a group of 4 strong, and a bear, we'd encountered several bears along the thing, rivers, everything, we're a strong group of 4, and that's when it just, my gut sank, like, I'm by myself out here, and I really missed the group,
With the path of least resistant block, he turned and headed back up, around the peak, and onto a small glacier. Already he could feel his thought process changing. The wilderness that had become almost mundane over the last 75 days had become oppressive, almost terrifying. The loneliness was overpowering. He wanted out. There were options. He could sit and wait, but to Burcham the only solution was to keep moving forward. As an Alaskan veteran, knowing full well he was about to make a mistake, he turned around and headed for the glacier.
So going across there was a little small crevasse with some snow across it, an ice bridge, and I thought it would hold me, and as I walked across that, it popped through, and I was waist deep in this small crevasse, but it wedged down. I mean, if it had gone through, I would have sunk down. I had no ice axe, so...
The ground beneath his feet gave way like a trapdoor swinging open. For that brutal half-second, there was no way of knowing the outcome. The hole could have been a few feet deep or hundreds. The bridge collapsed, but the snow funneled into a tight constriction, stopping his fall. He was stuck, wedged into this fissure. From a distance, it must have looked like a man treading water in a vast sea of snow. This time, there was no rope tied to his harness. There was no helpful hand there to grab his pack and wrestle him back to safety. There was nothing but the soft hiss of drizzle and a sobering realization.
The one thing I thought about that just kind of even gave me more of a rot gut feeling was the group had gone on for, they were going on for roughly 10 days to 14 days on to finish the trip. If I didn't report back to my sister's wedding, right, everyone would assume I was just sticking it out with the group. Like they figured, oh, John blew it off. He's just continuing the hike. He didn't make it. They didn't make it in time. So the thing that hit me was, one, no one would know where I was, and two, no one would even remotely know to even look for me for 14 days. It really hit me then, like, no one's going to come after me. No one's going to look for me. No one knows where I am, and that was just bad icing on the cake, I guess.
Burcham's arms extended out above the ice, like a child trying to pull himself onto a granite countertop. He had been incredibly lucky, but now he was stuck. He had to figure a way to get a little traction on the hard glacial ice. His heavy pack had pinned him in the crevasse. As the weight of his situation began to sink in, he started working out a solution.
I was kind of up to my waist in this bridge, and I actually had some ski poles, and I actually unscrewed the ski poles. There were some leaky poles, and they had these little spikes on the ends these little plastic things. I ended up putting those on my hand, and I clawed my way up onto the ice, onto the glacier, and that put me over the pass. And then
Burcham paused momentarily, trying to collect his thoughts. He thought about the group headed on, about his situation. If he screwed up again, there would be no one to help. He might not get another chance.
We had crossed on this expedition hundreds and hundreds of rivers, and some rivers would be really shallow, and we would just cross them, no big deal. More serious ones, we would link our arms. I would waterproof all my camera equipment.
The third and most desirable option was to float. Whenever possible, the team had taken to water, deploying a small fleet of yellow rafts.
They're caravel, little vinyl rafts, and they strictly safe for pool use only. And we pushed those things to the limit. They're just yellow, oval-shaped things, and they'll hold one guy in a backpack. Is basically it. And
so you're talking about the same sort of boats that you'd see like a toddler cruising around in the pool.
yeah, or a really calm lake with his dad, cruising around. We learned to be experts with those things, and even on that trip, we had probably traveled well over 100 miles in those boats.
All he had to do was float this glacial stream for 10 miles or so. But Burcham was exhausted. He'd been on the move for 18 hours already, and he had tried sleeping, but he couldn't relax, couldn't stop thinking about getting to that lodge.
I guess I was in a rush, so I decided to put my backpack in the middle of the raft and just sit on it, straddle it cowboy style, and just ride it down, I wasn't going to strap it, no big deal. As soon as I did that, it flips over instantly.
The backpack fell from the raft. Burcham toppled into the water. The breath rushed from his lungs. The cold gathered in his temples. Somehow he managed to grab the raft and his backpack.
And I made it to shore, just, soaked to death. And at this point, I'm shaking so hard I could hardly carry the raft or my pack, and I can't even think straight. I'm so cold. And I get my act together, put the pack on the right way, get in the boat, and I start cruising downstream.
He had to get dry. There were no trees or woods on the flat glacial plain. He needed a fire. Several miles downstream, the gravel mounds gave way to spruce forests, and the only option now was to continue on. He had to keep going.
I don't think it was that life death kind of thing. It was just, I got to do something, I got to get out of this situation.